Being ignored hurts. It is as if our value was measured by the look that did not come, by the message that did not arrive, by the attention that was denied. Instinct cries out for validation, and ego cries out for reparation. But Stoicism offers us a powerful alternative. The silence that once wounded now becomes a mirror. In it you don't see absence. You see opportunity. The Stoic sees in the silence of others the chance to listen to himself. When the world doesn't respond, you're forced to turn inward. And it is precisely there that true strength is born. The lack of external answers creates space for you to discover that your presence is enough. That its value does not need to echo in applause to be real. It is in this emptiness, apparently cold, that the heat of consciousness awakens. The common man is restless, blames himself, lowers himself. The Stoic man remains. He doesn't need to fill gaps with promises or chase after what abandons him. He observes. And when he observes, he understands. What moves away reveals more about the other than about himself. Ignoring is not a personal attack. It is a choice of the other. And other people's choices, according to the Stoics, should not define our peace. You may react with despair, or you can respond with class. And this elegant, restrained response, powerful in its stillness, is the secret weapon of the Stoic spirit. It disarms, impresses, and transforms pain into discipline. True power is not needing anyone's presence to feel whole. It is when their absence begins to be felt more than the presence of those who have never left. Because what is rare becomes memorable. And when you stop begging for attention, you start commanding the space around you with your quiet energy. Silence then ceases to be a punishment and becomes a sanctuary. A place where you find yourself, strengthen yourself, and rebuild yourself. Those who learn to be well alone never beg for company again. And this, in the chaotic world we live in, is a true emotional revolution. We live waiting to be recognized, noticed, chosen. And when we are not, we feel small, rejected, invisible. But the Stoics teach us a liberating truth. We are not what the other offers us. We are what we choose to do with what we have been denied. The absence of love, attention, or validation can sink us, or it can elevate us. It all depends on the look we choose. The reactive man despairs in the face of emotional scarcity. The Stoic man, on the other hand, transforms the foul into training. He sees in each no a chance to improve himself. In each absence, an invitation to introspection. You don't control what the world gives you, but you completely control how you respond to what is missing. And this awareness is where freedom is born. Reaction is the field where the real battle is fought. Not against the other, but against oneself. Against the desire to beg, justify, or diminish oneself. The Stoic takes a deep breath, not because he doesn't feel, but because he chooses to feel wisely. Pain doesn't define him, it shapes you. He understands that not all absence is abandonment. Sometimes it's just space. Space to grow, to polish yourself, to become someone who no longer needs to depend on the external gaze to validate her own essence. True evolution begins when you stop wanting to change others and start changing yourself. When you stop asking yourself, why did they do this to me? And start asking yourself, what can I learn from this? It is this type of question that turns scars into medals. And in the end, the greatest Stoic achievement is this: to be unwavering even in the face of neglect, to keep one's dignity intact even when the world insists on ignoring it. It is not a question of coldness, but of conscience. Because when you understand your value, the absence of the other stops hurting you. It just confirms that you never needed him to be who you are. Emotions come without warning. Anger, sadness, anxiety. They all knock on the door of our heart urgently. The problem is when, instead of visitors, they want to become permanent tenants. And Stoicism, with its gentle firmness, teaches you can welcome what you feel, but you must never become a hostage to it. Feeling is human. Reacting impulsively is optional. The Stoic is not someone who does not feel. He is someone who feels without getting lost. He understands that emotion must be heard, not obeyed. It must be understood, not idolized. The difference is in the space we give between the stimulus and the response. Imagine that every emotion is a messenger. The Stoic reads the message, thanks her, and dismisses her. He doesn't invite her to stay, because he knows that prolonged emotion without reflection turns into torment. And prolonged torment becomes prison. Only those who are not slaves to their own humor are free. Mastering emotions is not repressing them. It is to conduct them with awareness. It's saying, I see what you want to make me feel, but I choose how I'm going to react. It is to transform impulse into pause, anger into analysis, despair into focus. This is what differentiates an ordinary man from a Stoic man. Those who overreact show that they are still dominated. Those who observe, hope, and act clearly demonstrate a rare emotional structure. The world respects those who do not bow down to their own emotions, because deep down, everyone wants this stability, but few manage to cultivate it. So when emotion comes, don't deny it. Welcome, breathe, reflect, and then act like one who rules one's own mind. Because in Stoicism, the true empire is not what is conquered outside. It is what is built within. Between what happens to you and your response, there is a gap, an invisible moment where everything can change. The common man ignores this space and reacts on impulse. The Stoic man inhabits this interval. It is there, between the action of the world and our reaction, that freedom lives. Life will provoke you. The people will test you. Situations will challenge your balance. But none of them have real power over you, unless you surrender that power. The secret is not to be predictable, not always reacting in the same way, to surprise even oneself with self-control. The Stoic understands that there is strength in not responding immediately, that silence is sometimes the most eloquent answer, and that it is not because something hurts us that we should hurt back. The emotional reaction is a trap. The thought answer, on the other hand, is a construction. This space between stimulus and reaction is the training ground of the Stoic. There, he trains his patience, his clarity, and his presence. He is not slow, he is strategic. He is not cold, he is conscious. His mind does not run after control of the world, but mastery over himself. And this pause, no matter how small, changes everything. Because it is in it that you decide, will I be a slave to what affects me, or will I be a master of myself? The choice, while it seems subtle, has profound implications. It defines whether you will be a victim of circumstances or the architect of your peace. Stoic wisdom, therefore, is not in being immune to the world. It is in not being molded by it. It is in the midst of chaos that true control is born. Not control of the external, but self-control, the most powerful of all. Staying is not always a sign of strength. Sometimes it's just fear. Fear of losing, fear of disappointing, fear of not being remembered anymore. But the Stoic knows that in many situations, going out is the greatest act of courage. And more than that, it is an act of dignity. To retire with class is to know that you don't need to make a fuss to be heard, that you don't need to beg to be valued. It is simply turning our backs without hatred, without drama, without revenge. It is the silent exit that screams louder than any speech. The Stoic man does not run away. He chooses where to stay. He does not beg to stay where there is no respect. He leaves not to hurt, but to preserve what is most sacred to him, his peace. And this elegant exit confuses, impacts, and is often what really transforms the situation. It's not about pride, but about clarity. When you understand your worth, you don't have to prove anything. You just go. And as you go, you become memorable. Because few know how to leave at the right time. Few understand that the real impact often lies in knowing when to stop insisting. Those who retire with class do not erase themselves. They stand out. Because its absence is not the absence of presence, it is the presence of dignity. It's a silent message that says, I've been here, I've done my best, but I don't have to get lost to be seen. And in the end, it is this attitude that resonates the most. Because most beg, cry, humiliate themselves. The Stoic, on the other hand, is silent, observes, and leaves. And this type of match, made with serenity and posture, is what I miss the most. When you understand your own worth, your presence becomes a rare gift. The Stoic man does not offer himself as a liquidation product accessible at any time. He knows that being present is a choice, not an obligation. And it is precisely this awareness that makes it magnetic. To live as if one's presence were a privilege is not arrogance, it is dignity. It means knowing that you are not there to fill anyone's void. It is there because it has chosen to be, because it has something to offer, and not because it needs to be accepted. This completely changes the dynamics of any relationship. The world is full of people who give too much, and then get lost in the process. The Stoic does the opposite. He gives himself with awareness, engages with purpose, and withdraws when he realizes that his presence is no longer appreciated. He doesn't demand attention. He just decides where it's worth being, and this type of posture does not go unnoticed. Because deep down, everyone wants to be by the side of those who value themselves. When someone acts as if their presence is ordinary, they will be treated as such. But when you walk with the conviction that being there is a privilege for the other, this energy changes everything. True influence is born of quiet respect. The way you enter a place, how you position yourself, how you look. You don't need to say much or justify anything. His posture already communicates, I am whole alone. And being with you is a choice, not a necessity. This is what separates the ordinary from the unforgettable. Therefore, whenever you doubt its impact, remember, your presence should not be offered as an obligation. It should be given as a gift, the kind you can't find on any street corner. We live in a world where everything needs to be proven, shown, posted. But the true value is silent. He doesn't need a stage or an audience. The Stoic man knows that what really matters is not measured in likes nor in visible reactions. It is felt, even when it is not said. There is a type of energy that remains even after the presence is gone. An essence that marks, that imposes itself without shouting. And that's exactly what Stoicism teaches. The real impact is not in display, but in authenticity. It's what you transmit when you're not even trying. When you live with purpose, even your silence has weight. You don't need to explain yourself, justify yourself, or compete. Your posture, your coherence, and your tranquility speak for you. And often these qualities are heard more than 1,000 well-rehearsed words. The Stoic man cares more about what he is than what others see. He does not need to prove that he is strong, because his calmness already demonstrates it. It doesn't need to say it's reliable, because its consistency makes it clear. He doesn't need to shout that he has value. His silence says it all. This kind of value is not ephemeral. He remains, because it does not depend on approval. It is born of the integrity, constancy, and peace of those who know exactly who they are. And anyone who meets someone like that immediately feels the difference, even if they can't explain why. In the end, the deepest value is the one that, even if invisible, is impossible to ignore. And when you understand that, you stop trying to be noticed and starts to be remembered. In a world where everyone tries to be always present, showing up all the time can be a mistake. The Stoic, on the other hand, has mastered the art of strategic absence. He knows that sometimes it is the distance that creates the impact, and that when it disappears with purpose, it awakens more than 1,000 automatic presences. It is not about manipulation. It's about balance. Being always available, always accessible, makes your energy lose strength. On the other hand, well-applied absence generates contrast, mystery, and respect. It's like the pause between the notes of a song. That's where the feeling grows. The Stoic man understands that space is necessary, not only for the other to miss him, but for him to find himself again. He does not hide, he withdraws, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because he understands that even emotions need a breather to reorganize themselves. When you move away with purpose, you generate mental presence. You become a recurring thought. And the most interesting thing is that, in this process, the other begins to project onto you what they did not fully understand. Absence makes room for imagination, and imagination is powerful, but the secret is in the intention. The Stoic does not disappear by lack or flight. He withdraws out of emotional strategy to protect your peace, to give space to the other, to remember that no one owns anyone, and that the true bond resists at a distance. Absenting, when done with balance and dignity, is one of the most powerful tools of presence. Because, as Stoicism itself shows us, we only miss what at some point was essential. Most try to impress with deeds, with grandiose actions, with noise. But the Stoic man understands something deeper. You are remembered not only for what you do, but for what you represent. For the energy it carries, for the calm it transmits, for the coherence between words and attitudes. Doing a lot is not synonymous with being unforgettable. Sometimes a calm and constant presence impacts more than 1,000 dramatic gestures. The Stoic does not worry about putting on a show. He lives his truth consistently. And this truth, even silent, leaves a mark. There are people who pass by and disappear, and others that even if they leave, are still present within the mind and heart. What differentiates one from the other? The depth of being, that which goes beyond doing, what you feel even when you are no longer there. The Stoic man lives with intention. Every gesture, every choice, every absence carries a meaning. He does not seek to please, he seeks to be. And that's precisely why it pleases effortlessly. Because authenticity has a power that no performance can reproduce. When you focus more on being than on looking, you naturally stand out. And by being remembered for what you stand for, not what you deliver, you build a rare kind of emotional memory. Those that do not go out. So more than trying to make someone remember you, be someone impossible to forget. And that starts when you understand that true presence is invisible, but deeply felt. We live at a frenetic pace. Everyone runs, everyone screams, everyone wants to be the first to speak, to appear, to win. But in this chaos, there is one figure that stands out by contrast, the Stoic. He doesn't run, he walks. He doesn't react, he observes. And that's exactly what makes it fascinating. While the others rush to impress, he digs deeper to understand. He is in no hurry to be understood because he knows that depth takes time. And this calm is magnetic because the world is hungry for stability. By someone who doesn't let himself be carried away by the tide, the Stoic man does not compete in noise. He dominates in silence. He does not engage in disputes for attention, because he knows that true attention is not earned by force, it is attracted. And the secret is in the contrast. The more rarefied its behavior, the more it stands out. Serene, firm, restrained, the Stoic conveys a kind of energy that reassures. He doesn't play the game of anxiety. He plays the game of coherence. And that's why he inspires confidence. Because deep down, everyone wants someone who doesn't disintegrate under pressure. What really attracts is not the one who screams the loudest, but the one who remains standing while everyone runs. The contrast between the despair of the world and the serenity of the Stoic generates admiration. He becomes the calm center in the midst of the storm, and that's unforgettable, so never underestimate the power of your peace of mind. She may be the only point of balance anyone will find in a world of chaos. And sometimes, just for that, you will already be remembered forever. The world applauds those who speak loudly, who impose themselves with words, who explode to be noticed. But the Stoic man understands something deeper. True impact comes not from volume, but from presence. And the strongest presence is often silent. Emotional control is not coldness, it is strength. It's knowing that you don't need to raise your voice to show that you're firm, that you don't need to exalt yourself to prove you right. The Stoic masters his own internal temperature, even when the world tries to set him on fire. Whoever screams shows that he has lost control. Those who talk too much often denounce themselves. On the other hand, he who chooses silence chooses dominance. He is not absent because he is weak. He is silent because he is in charge. It is a decision, not an escape. This type of posture is confusing because most expect predictable, impulsive, emotional reactions. And when the Stoic breaks this cycle, he draws attention effortlessly. He becomes the man that everyone watches, and few understand. Inner peace is reflected in gestures, in the way you listen, in the way you respond. And that tranquility is like an energy field. It attracts, inspires, and commands respect. Because deep down, everyone knows dominating the world is easy next to mastering oneself. So the next time chaos calls you to the stage of reactivity, choose silence, choose firmness, and let your absence of reaction be the loudest sound of your maturity. We live in times where everything is revealed in excess, feelings, thoughts, plans. But the Stoic man goes against the grain. He keeps what is valuable, not out of fear, but by choice. Because he understands that mystery is not manipulation, it is self-control. You don't have to expose yourself to be truthful. Authenticity is not in saying everything, but in saying what matters at the right time. The Stoic speaks less, but when he does, he has weight. He shares, but with criteria. He does not hide, but preserves himself. To be mysterious in this context is not to surrender to the urgency of being understood all the time. It is allowing the other to discover you little by little, and, at this pace, create true connection, not just passing curiosity. The human mind values what it does not yet fully understand. What is wide open loses its charm. What is revealed with time and purpose becomes fascinating. The Stoic knows this. He doesn't force presence, he doesn't explain its depth, he lets it be felt. And it is precisely this emotional reserve that generates impact. Because it communicates balance, security, and maturity. It shows that you are whole on the inside, and therefore, you don't need to prove anything on the outside. Being mysterious, then, is not playing. It is dominating, not the other, but himself. It is to let silence speak for you, and time to reveal what you have built with consistency. There are times when the expected response is a scream, an explanation, an outburst, but the Stoic chooses silence, not out of cowardice, but out of wisdom. He knows that in some situations, silence is more eloquent than any argument. Silence does not mean agree. It means that you have understood that you don't have to react to everything that hurts you, that your value is not in convincing the other, but in keeping yourself whole. And this posture, although discreet, is deeply impactful. Silence cuts deeper than sharp words. He says, I saw it, I felt it, but I'm not going to get lost because of that. And this message, even if not verbalized, echoes for a long time in the mind of those who receive it. Because there is no defense against the calm of those who have already overcome themselves. Reacting is easy. Anyone can blow up, but holding an answer that leads nowhere. This requires strength. The Stoic does not silence out of pride, but out of priority. He values his peace more than a momentary emotional victory, and ironically, it is this silence that makes you think the most. Because the absence of reaction forces the other to reflect. It breaks the cycle of aggression, dispute, defense. It shows that you have already won, precisely because you don't need to prove anything else. Then, when everything in you calls for an impulsive reaction, breathe. And remember, silence, when it comes from self-control, is unforgettable. Freedom is not doing what you want. It is not being dominated by anything, neither by pain nor by desire. The Stoic man walks this fine line. He feels, desires, suffers, but none of this governs him. Because he understood that to be free is to own oneself. The pain tries to drag you to the bottom. Desire for exaggeration. They both want to dominate you, but the Stoic observes, recognizes, and remains firm. He doesn't suppress what he feels, he chooses what he does with it. And this choice is what defines your freedom. When you are controlled by feelings, you become a slave to circumstances. The other ignores you, and you collapse. The world praises you and you exalt yourself. But the free man remains the same, with or without applause, with or without abandonment. He does not trade his essence for approval. Stoicism does not seek emotional anesthesia. He seeks balance. You can love, but not lose yourself. It can suffer, but not sink. You can wish, but do not delude yourself. And this kind of conscious presence transforms any bond into something lighter and truer. Real freedom is being able to leave without hatred and to be without dependence. It is saying yes out of will and not out of fear of loneliness. It's being with someone and still feeling complete. Because you don't need the other, you choose to be with them. To be free, deep down, is to know that no emotion has more strength than your decision to be whole. And this is one of the most valuable achievements of the Stoic. In a world obsessed with comparison, the Stoic man doesn't step into the ring. He doesn't try to be prettier, funnier, more desirable than anyone else. He just is. And this posture, which seems simple, is one of the most powerful that anyone can have. Competition is born of insecurity, of the fear of not being enough. But the Stoic understood, if you need to prove your worth, it's because you still don't believe in it. Therefore, he focuses on being the best version of himself, not on surpassing others. He does not compete for attention, for space, for affection. He does not run after those who do not see him. And that, ironically, makes it more seen, because those who do not despair stand out. Whoever remains centered becomes a reference. While many spend energy trying to win people, the Stoic channels that energy into himself. It builds, evolves, observes. And it is this tranquility that generates presence, a presence that does not depend on noise but on coherence. The man who does not compete is dangerous, because he doesn't play the emotional game. He does not need to win. He has already won by staying whole, and this makes an impact, because most still live to prove something. The Stoic, on the other hand, lives to be something. In the end, the power of the Stoic lies in his steadfastness. He is not shaken, he is not compared, he is not lost. And that's exactly why it becomes unforgettable.